السلام عليكم ورحمة الله وبركاته.
وعليكم السلام ورحمة الله وبركاته. الحمد لله رب العالمين والصلاة والسلام على رسول الكريم. ربنا ظلمنا أنفسنا وإن لم تغفر لنا وترحمنا لنكونن من الخاسرين. اللهم نوّر قلوبنا بمعرفتك واشرح صدورنا بنور كتابك وسنة نبيك واحفظنا أن زلل خطأ في بيان مرادك وجعلنا من السامعين مطيعين أوليائك المخلصين غير الضالين ولا مضلين. آمين آمين يا رب العالمين. بسم الله.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولقوله عليه الصلاة والسلام: جار الدار أحق بالدار والأرض، ينتظر له وإن كان غائبا، إذا كان طريقهما واحدا.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. So we did the first hadith yesterday. This is the subut showing us the validity of shufa. So الشفعة لشريك لم يقاسم أو لم يقاسم المجهول ما معروف. So what does this last part mean? Before the property has been divided. So what does this mean? You might have done the word kisma before in one of the other parts. The kisma is where, so for example, two people buy a property, but obviously the property comes, argument's sake, a double-story house, right? Just to make it easier to understand. So obviously the house doesn't come divided. What it means is that they, for example, bought 50-50, they have a share of 50-50, 50% in the house. So obviously every square inch of the house, every centimeter of the house is owned by them 50-50. Okay, unspecified, in other words. So what can happen sometimes is that the partners come to an agreement, you know what, that let us determine specific shares for each of us. And let us work it out in a manner that we each know specifically what I own and what you own. So for example, again, for argument's sake, one says, I'm happy to take the top story. We're happy with the bottom story. The guy says, I agree. So then they have it divided according to that, where they separate the ownership of the house into two parts. The one part belonging to the one partner and the other part belonging to the other partner. So in this way, it becomes specified, a specified share, a specified 50% in our example, in the particular house or property. So that is what kisma is all about, where the partners delineate and they specify what portion of that item belongs to each partner. Okay, then the second hadith, the Qawli Sallallahu Alaihi Wasallam, الدار أحق بسقبه قيل يا رسول الله ما سقبه قال شفعته. That a neighbor is most entitled to his saqab. It was asked, Ya Rasulullah, what is the saqab? Nabi Sallallahu said shufa. So this part actually isn't in the hadith, Qila Ya Rasulullah. This part isn't in the hadith that we have in front of us. And Nabi Sallallahu just himself just said, وَسَقَبُهُ شُفْعَةُ, wasn't asked about it. Okay. وَيُرْوَى الْجَارُ أَحَقُّ بِشُفْعَتِهِ. And it's also been narrated that the neighbor is most entitled to his shufa, to his right of first refusal. G. Yeah.
وقال الشافعي رحمه الله: لا شفعة بالجوار، لقوله عليه الصلاة والسلام: الشفعة فيما لم يقسم، فإذا وقعت الحدود وصرفت الطرق فلا شفعة.
G. Now, after discussing these various things, the derivative of the word shufa, lughatan, istilahan, what its status is, shar'an, wajib, and so forth, the people who are entitled to shufa and the tartib of it, and so on and so forth, now it comes to the ikhtilaf. So he said that Imam Shafi, now again, obviously the kutub of a particular madhab is not a source of the opinion of a different madhab. So even though he's saying that Imam Shafi, this is Imam Shafi's opinion, you will need to verify that. Then is this really the madhab of the Shawafi or not? And is it the Muftabi code in the madhab or not? Okay, but anyway, so this is all part of, we do this because it's all part of tadrib. This is all part of training the mind and of sharpening a person's faqaha in understanding arguments and how to respond to arguments and differences of opinion in fiqh. Anyway, so Imam Shafi rahmatullahi says that there is la shuf'ata bil jawar. There is no shuf'a because of because of being a neighbor, meaning that a neighbor is not entitled to shuf'a. The shufa is exclusive to the Khalid fi nafs al-Mabi', a partner in the co-owned land or property, and thereafter the partner in the rights to the property. There is no shufa for a neighbor. Why? لقول عليه الصلاة والسلام الشفعة فيما لم يقسم. Because the Nabi Sallallahu is reported to have said that shufa is only in that which has not yet been divided. But once qisma has taken place, once there is separation, there's a clear distinction between my property and your property. There's no shufa. And obviously a neighbor is completely separate. He's got his own property, his own land, his own house. It's completely separate to his neighbor. So then there's no question of shufa. Okay. فإذا وقعت الحدود وصرفت الطرق فلا شفعة. So therefore, if the borders of each one's property has been determined, وصرفت الطرق, and they're going and coming, their pathways, the road leading or the pathway leading to each one's property is determined or separate, different, then there's no shufa. Okay? Right. So that's the dalil of the khasam from the hadith, meaning that he is radiallahu anhu, he is naqli dalil. Now what's the aqli dalil? He says وَلِأَنَّ حَقَّ الشُّفْعَةِ مَعْدُولٌ بِهِ عن سنن القياس. Sanan, and with the fathatain, sanan, not sunnah. Sanan al-qiyas. Sunan is the plural of sunnah. That is sanan al-qiyas, which means tariq. And because the right of shuf'a has been turned away, or it differs from, it differs from the mannerisms or the norm of qiyas. And the simple that is khilaful qiyas. Now you might remember from our usul al-shashi lessons that if a hadith is khilaful qiyas, understand the argument. If a hadith is khilaful qiyas, you cannot make qiyas on the hadith to further extract any other masala, to further extract any masala from that, to use it, as a basis for any new masala that might occur. The example I gave there was qahqaha fi salah. The qahqaha, if a person laughs aloud in salah, this is in Usul Shashi, it breaks both the wudu and his salah. Remember that? So we said, okay, we understand that it can break your salah, right? Because it's kalam fi salah, and kalam fi salah breaks salah. But breaking the wudu, what's the reason for that? There's no khuruj of najasa anyway. Yeah. So we will say that it's khilaful qiyas, and because it's khilaful qiyas, we cannot use that as an illah or that hadith as a basis for any other situation thereafter. It has to be confined, and it will remain exclusive to that one particular scenario and situation. It cannot be made muta'addi. It cannot be used as a basis for deriving any other masail. You remember that? Right. So in the same way here, Imam Shafi is saying, this is khilaful qiyas. Why is it khilaful qiyas? What is the meaning of a transaction? Shufa is a transaction, yes, a sale transaction, because the neighbor is going to obviously he's claiming the right to buy the house, so he's going to give money and take the house. So this is a transaction, yes. And in a transaction, what is the definition of a pay? معاودة المال بالمال على التراضي. That's a shart. To exchange wealth for wealth على التراضي with mutual consent. There must be mutual consent. Both partners, both people, buyer and seller, must be happy to be purchasing that profit, that item, or to be selling that item. Neither one can be forced into selling it or buying it. Understood? So this is exactly what's happening here. The owner is not maybe happy to sell it to his partner. He's not happy to sell it to the neighbor. He wants to sell it to a third party. Okay, and now we're forcing this. Remember, we did in the definition. Remember, حق تملك حق تملك الإيقار. Understand? بالجوار or بالشركة. Remember, we did it in the definition. So you're doing this jabra. He's by force. He's hashing his way, as we will say. He's hashing his way into that particular deal. So there's no taradi here. There's no mutual consent here. So this is khilaful qiyas. But because the Sharia said it's permissible, therefore we accept. But it's khilaful qiyas. And because khilaful qiyas, it doesn't go according to the norm of a standard sale. You cannot use this hadith to extend the masala to the neighbor. Then you are extending the masala to the neighbor, making qiyas on this hadith. That's Imam Shafi rahmatullah is claiming, or the Shawafi are claiming, rahimahullah ta'ala alayhim. So you can't do that. That's because this hadith is khilaful qiyas. Understand the argument?
Yeah.
Okay, so that is the that is the akli dalil. لما فيه من تملك المال على الغير. Why is it khilaful qiyas? Because in it, in shufa, we find the meaning of tamalluk al-mal, taking ownership of somebody's wealth, من غير رضاه, without his consent. Without his consent. وقد ورد الشرع به فيما لم يقسم. And because it's khilaful qiyas, you have to confine it now. The second part of the argument, you have to now confine it to that specific situation only. And in this hadith which we quoted, Nabi Sallallahu said, "Ash-shuf'atu fima lam yuksam." So وقد ورد الشرع, and the Sharia has detailed or has narrated or has allowed this particular sale fima lam yuksam only in those properties and estates that has not yet been divided. With the individual shares, the separate shares of the partners have not been delineated, has not been specified. But in the case of so you cannot use this hadith as a basis for extending the haqq to the neighbor as well, especially since the neighbor's property is completely separate to to the neighbor that's selling. You follow?
Yeah.
That's what he's saying here. Wahada, meaning there's one issue that we are disagreeing upon. So yes, في النفس may be no problem. في حق may be also not a problem. And in iqar, and we also not arguing near that. So it's just this masla, meaning referring to this mukhtalaf fi one, this one juice of the neighbor. Laysa fi ma'naw is not in the meaning of the hadith. Then the description given in the hadith does not fit onto the neighbor. Okay? You got it?
Yeah.
Like why? Now he's saying because the illat is also not found. Remember that even if you're making qiyas and you accept that, then remember there must be a common illah. Remember that from Usul al-Shashi? The makis and the makis alay, the asal and the fara, the original masala and the masala for which you are making qiyas upon, they must have a common illah. So he's saying the common illah doesn't exist here. Why? لأن مؤونة القسمة تلزمه في الأصل دون فرع. أصل here refers to the original masla in the sharik. دون فرع, not the masla which you're making here, which is the jar. Okay? مؤونة means the hardship, the difficulty, the what you call the uh, the effort that is required. And for mu'na, so he says the difficulty of dividing the properties. What difficulty? The monetary, you have to pay for it, and because in order to get it divided, you have to go to the court, and the court will check everything, and they might charge you for that. Like happens nowadays. In municipality, you have to pay municipal charges. To understand in our times, you have to pay municipal charges and to have the estate divided and rezoned, as we will say, right? So to have it rezoned as individual properties or as separate properties, you have to pay fees. So the mu'na of kisna, the financial difficulty that comes with dividing a property, تلزمه في الأصل, applies only in the original masla to the sharik. He has to pay and to have his property divided and separated from his partner. That is not applicable in the file. It's not applicable to a neighbor because there's no kisma there. His property is separate. He'll be buying a separate property from the neighbor that's selling. Okay? So the illa is not found. There's no common illa between the two. Because so Imam Shafi is saying that the illa of why have we given the right of shufa to the sharik? Because he has to bear the expenses of a division. Understand? So especially if a new partner is coming in, he can have it property divided and save himself from any problem. So because he is burdened with that financial expenditure, so therefore he's entitled to buy out his partner that's selling up, so that he doesn't have to bear that difficulty, if in case he doesn't like the new partner coming in. Okay? And that is not applicable to the neighbors. So you understand the argument there?
Sure.
Clear? Any question?
No, I understand.
Okay, carry on.
بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ولنا ما روينا
Right, so
ولأن
first of all, we
ملكه.
answer the Nakli Dalil of the Mashaf Rahmatullahi or the Shawafi, if that is their madhab. We respond by saying, we have already quoted the hadith in front, and there are many, many ahadith that clearly mention jar. So we're not making qiyas. And that's our response. You're saying, you're claiming we're making qiyas. We're not making qiyas. We're acting upon nas. And there are many hadith where the word jar is clearly mentioned. So that's, we're making amal upon nas, not on qiyas. Right? That's the first thing. Then, وَلِأَنَّ مُلْكَهُ مُتَّصِلٌ بِمُلْكِ الدَّخِيلِ اتصال التأبيد وقرار فيثبت له حق الشفعة إن وجود المعاوضة بالمال اعتبارا بمورد الشرع. And so we're saying, answer to the Aqli Dalil, that his property, understand, meaning the property of the neighbor, is connected to the ownership of the third party, the human, the person coming in, and the person coming into the new owner. So the third party, I'm translating it as, okay. His property, what he owns, is directly connected to the ownership of the third party. It is sort of ta'bid, in a manner that is everlasting. It's not possible to separate it. How are you going to separate his property from the new neighbor's property? It's not possible. It always remains connected, or it will always stay like this, next to each other. So, وقرار, اتصال التعبير قرار is عطف بيان. فيثبت له حق الشفعة. So therefore, the right of shufa, right to further refusal, is established for him. عند وجود المعاوضة, when an exchange of wealth is found, when there's an exchange of bil mal, when there's an exchange of cash money, understand? Then the حق الشفعة is established. اعتبارا بالشرع, then taking into consideration the the nas of the Sharia. Take into consideration the text of the Sharia, meaning the hadith. Okay, let me explain this first. First of all, in the wujud al-mu'awada bil-mal. That's actually one of the shurut which will come in front. The person selling the house, the neighbor selling the house, or the partner selling the house, it must be a cash sale. By cash, I don't mean the person is putting their money immediately. It must be in exchange for money. Let's put it that way. It must be in exchange for money. It must not be in exchange for a haq. What do I mean by exchange for a haq? By that I mean, for example, the person is giving it to his wife, then as mahar. So here, the property is being sold in inverted commas, not for money, but as a dowry, which is a haq of the wife. You follow?
Okay.
So in that case, there is no shufa. Yes, ownership has changed, but there's no cash involved. There's no money involved. The person gifted it to his son, for example, Adia, Hiba. Again, no money involved. It's a gift, no shufa. The person is giving the house as a payment for a qisas. Understand? For example, and the dia that is applicable in qisas, for example, is putting the house down. Saying, I don't have any cash. You can take the house, sell it, and give the money for the person that I accidentally killed, whatever the case was. Okay? Again, it's mu'awada, not bil mal, mu'awada bil haq. Okay? So in all these instances, there's no shufa. So it must be a sale and in lieu of money. Then only a person is entitled to shufa. All three of them. Okay? All three prospective buyers. So he's saying, so that's the first thing. Now he's saying, so this person's property is connected to his neighbor. So there's no reason for us not to allow him shufa. Remember I did before qiyas or taking into consideration the nas of Sharia, that the person is selling it to his partner. He's not partner's buying for free. So when there's a sale here. So what's the reason for excluding the neighbor from the sale? So just like how the partner is buying the house from his partners, the partner is selling up. So in the same way, this person also, his house is connected to his neighbor's house. He's willing to give the money to pay for it. So there's no reason to deny him the right to buy it. Now we're saying that we don't agree with your illah. The illah of mu'unatul kisma, that's not the illah as far as we are concerned. What we say, وهذا لأن الاتصال على هذه الصفة إنما انتسب سببا فيه لدفع ضرر الجواب. So we say the reason for this is that when a person is so connected in this manner, اتصال على هذه الصفة, when his property is being connected in this manner, that it's everlasting always, it is what's the word I'm looking for? It is enduring in this manner. Then إنما اكتسب سببا فيه. So in this way, we have given him the right of shufa because it is a means of him saving himself from the possible harms of the neighbor, the new neighbor. إذ هو مادة المضاد. Why? Because it is a cause of مادة يمين سبب. It is a cause of harm على ما عرف, as is well known. Not all neighbors are the same. Not all people are the same. Your previous neighbor might have been very courteous and kind and you had a good understanding of him. But the new person coming in might not necessarily be so. It might cause a lot of problems. And it's that's just his nature. You might end up coming in there and starting a business, a car business, mechanical business, whatever, in which there's the noise all the time. Understand? Something which you're not used to. So this is well known that a new neighbor coming in can possibly cause problems to you. So we're saying that the illah is not mu'unatul kisma, but the what you call the illah is daf'u darad al-jawab. You follow? And in this,
Yeah.
and keeping that illah in mind, there is a commonality. There is a common illah found between the sharik, both types of sharik, and the jawar, and the jar, and the neighbor. Okay, so the illah is found as the sharia is allowed it there to save the partner from any trouble. The sharia is allowed it for the neighbor to save him from any trouble. Okay?
Yeah.
Clear? Understood?
Yeah. Moulana, can you hear me?
Because here's like in your last sentence, and I was just looking at the time. وقطع هذه المادة بتملك الأسيل أولى لأن الضرر في حقه بإزعاجه عن خطة آبائه أقوى. So he says, and to remove قطع, remove the cause in هذه المادة, the cause of harm, بتملك الأسيل, by the asil, meaning the shafi, taking ownership of it. أولى is more entitled to it, more worthy of it. Understand? Understand? That's the shafi, meaning the neighbor. Giving this right to the neighbor, he's more entitled if you look at it. He's more worthy of getting this. Why? لأن الضرر في حقه بإزعاجه عن خطة آبائه أقوى. Why? Because the harm, it will come to his right by the difficulty that will be caused to the ownership of his forefathers. Obviously, his mubalagha in this. And that he's inherited his house from his forefathers now. It's been in the family for X amount of years, 60, 70 years. As his family house, which he inherited from his father. And now you're going to drive him out of his house because the neighbor is unpleasant. You follow? So the dollar is found to a greater degree in him. He'll be losing a childhood house. All the memories will be gone and so on and so forth. Understand? So the harm is even greater to him than it is to the sharik. Understood that?
Yeah.
You sure?
Sure.
Okay. Can we stop there?
Here we go. Inshallah.
Okay. Then we also answer this Mu'unatul Kisma argument that comes next, inshallah. Look at that. Inshallah next week. Allah gives us tawfiq and you're still alive. Basically, what he's saying is there. Okay, shall I do it next week? Inshallah, it's Friday. Read Ratul Salawat, Surah Al-Kahf was well, inshallah. Make dua for yourselves, for your parents, for your asatidha, your neighbors, your friends, family, inshallah, and also the whole ummah at large, especially the mujahideen in the troubled areas all over the world, inshallah.
Inshallah.
inshallah. سبحان الله بحمده سبحانك الله بحمدك نشهد أن لا إله إلا أنت نستغفرك ونتوب إليك